In my past life, I was the unwanted son-in-law of a powerful dynasty, living a life less dignified than a stray dog. My wife, the ice-cold CEO, viewed me as worn-out shoes to be discarded, and her family treated me like a parasite. Eventually, I died a miserable death in a meticulously orchestrated car accident, my body mangled beyond recognition. Then I woke up. I was back 3 years in the past. It was the very night that would determine my fate. She, Elena Sterling, the high and mighty CEO of Sterling Corp., was once again throwing divorce papers in my face. But this time, I held the keys to every major economic shift and secret of the next 3 years. This time, I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't be pathetic. I only wanted to take back everything that belonged to me, and then watch her regret the day she was born. Sign it. Elena's voice was like an Arctic wind, devoid of any warmth. A document titled Divorce Settlement Agreement was slapped onto the coffee table in front of me, landing with a sharp thwack. I looked at her, the wife I had loved for 5 whole years, yet whose hand I had never even been allowed to hold. She was still beautiful, her figure perfectly outlined by a high-end, custom-tailored business suit. Her makeup was exquisite, her gaze freezing, an insurmountable mountain of snow. In my last life, right here in this spot, I had knelt on the floor, begging like a dog for her not to divorce me. I cried, promising I would change, begging for one more chance. She had only looked down at me with eyes full of contempt and disgust, telling me I was nothing but mud that couldn't cling to the wall. Finally, she called security and had me dragged out like trash. But now, I slowly raised my head, my gaze shifting from the divorce papers to her flawless face. The scene was familiar, the person was familiar, but I was no longer the pathetic Caleb Vance. I had died in a car crash, knocked off a cliff by an out-of-control truck, my body destroyed. In my final moments, I saw the person in the driver's seat. It was Gavin Hayes, Elena's best friend, the man who always showed off in front of me and stabbed me in the back. And less than a month after my death, Elena had gotten engaged to Gavin. It turned out my 5 years of devotion were nothing but a joke. Now I was reborn, back 3 years, at the exact node where the tragedy began. What? Want to kneel and beg me again? Seeing me hesitate, the corner of Elena's mouth curled into a mocking sneer. Caleb, let me remind you, the Sterling family has supported you for 3 years. You ate our food, lived in our house. Letting you go now is already the greatest mercy we could show you. Don't push your luck. I didn't speak. I simply picked up the pen and calmly flipped to the last page. Elena crossed her arms, watching coldly, waiting to see my humiliation. But I didn't cry, and I didn't make a scene. In the signature box, I wrote the name Caleb Vance. The strokes were sharp, without a hint of hesitation. Elena Froze. The mockery in her eyes solidified, replaced by a trace of astonishment. This was completely different from the script she had imagined. That waste of space who only knew how to wag his tail and beg. How could he be so decisive? I not only signed it, but added a line of small text next to it. I, Caleb Vance, voluntarily waive all alimony and assets, and sever all financial ties with the Sterling family. All previous favors from the Sterling family are hereby written off. Finished, I pushed the agreement toward her. Read it clearly. I don't want a thing. From now on, we owe each other nothing. My voice wasn't loud, but it hit Elena's heart like a heavy hammer. She looked at me, and for the first time, there was a look of scrutiny in her eyes. I stood up, straightened my cheap shirt, and turned to leave. No looking back. No lingering attachment. Walking out of that luxurious prison that had confined me for 3 years, the outside air smelled of freedom. I pulled out an old, beat-up phone and dialed a number that had been gathering dust in my memory. The call connected quickly, and a voice, excited but uncertain, came through. Caleb, man. Dom, it's me. Caleb, you finally called. Where the hell have you been for 3 years? I've been looking everywhere for you, man. I was going crazy. My eyes grew hot. I took a deep breath, suppressing the surging emotions. Let's not talk about the past. Right now, listen to me. Take all the funds you have, everything, and buy a stock called North Star Tech. Remember, buy as much as you can. Even if you have to borrow money, go all in. I'll see you in 3 days. Hanging up, I looked up at the night sky. Elena, Gavin. Your game is over. My game is just beginning. Leaving the Sterling Villa, I took only one thing, an old watch my dad left me. I was penniless, but in my mind, I held the blueprint of the world's economic trends for the next 3 years. I went to a grimy, 24-hour cyber cafe and rented a private booth. The air was thick with the smell of instant noodles and stale cigarette smoke. It was choking, but it felt incredibly real. I logged into a dormant brokerage account, which still held the $10,000 I had saved from work-study jobs during college. This was my last bit of capital. Without hesitation, I dumped all the funds into that stock, North Star Tech. In my past life, exactly 3 days from now, the domestic tech giant Apex Industries would announce a full acquisition of North Star Tech, using it as a springboard into the field of artificial intelligence. This ignored junk stock would skyrocket 20 times over in a single day, and I would secure my first pot of gold. After doing all this, I leaned back in the chair, closed my eyes, and mentally organized my revenge plan at high speed. Elena, Gavin, the Sterling family, I will collect what you owe me, bit by bit, with interest. Early the next morning, I was woken up on my ringtone. It was Dom. Caleb, I did it. I mortgaged my house, scraped together over $300,000, and put it all in. But Caleb, this North Star Tech is about to be delisted. Isn't this too risky? Dom's voice was full of trust, but he couldn't hide a trace of worry. Trust me, I only said 2 words. All right, Caleb, I trust you. For the next 2 days, I ate and lived in the cyber cafe, sleeping only 3 or 4 hours a day. The rest of the time, I was researching the commercial trends of the next few years and the projects destined to skyrocket. What I wanted to do wasn't just revenge. I wanted to stand at the summit of this world so that everyone who once looked down on me could only look up at my back. On the 3rd day, the market opened. North Star Tech stock price was still dead in the water, even dipping slightly. Dom's calls came one after another, but I didn't answer a single one. I knew he was suffering, but I knew even better that the darkness before dawn is the deepest. 2:59 p.m., 1 minute before the closing bell. A breaking news alert popped up on the headlines of every financial website. Apex Industries announces billion-dollar full acquisition of North Star Tech. The next second, North Star Tech's stock price rode a rocket, instantly smashing through the ceiling. $5, $10, $15. Finally, it locked at $20, a full 20-fold increase. The $10,000 in my account turned into $200,000, and Dom's $300,000 turned into $6 million. I dialed Dom's number. On the other end, there was a deathly silence, only the sound of heavy breathing. Caleb. His voice was trembling, sounding like he was about to cry. Are we rich? No, I said calmly. We just took back what should have belonged to us. Caleb, I don't know what to say. My life is yours from now on. Don't talk nonsense. Get ready. We're going to do something big. Hanging up, I walked out of the cafe. The glaring sunlight made me feel a bit dazed. I hailed a taxi and gave an address. Driver, take me to the Pinnacle sales office. The Pinnacle was one of the city's premier luxury developments, and I was going to buy the most expensive penthouse there, the King of the Sky. Coincidentally, as soon as I got out of the taxi, I saw 2 familiar figures, Elena and Gavin. Gavin was holding a document, talking spiritedly to Elena, his face full of excitement. Elena, though expressionless, lacked her usual coldness in her eyes. Clearly, she was receptive to whatever Gavin was saying. They saw me, too. Gavin paused for a second, then an exaggerated look of mockery plastered onto his face. Yo, isn't this our big loser, Caleb? What? Got kicked out by Elena with nowhere to go. So you came here to apply for a security job? He wrapped his arm around Elena's waist, looking at me provocatively. Makes sense. Someone like you is only fit for that kind of work. Elena's brow furrowed imperceptibly. She looked at the cheap clothes on my back, a flash of disgust in her eyes, as if seeing me was an insult to her. Gavin, don't waste breath on this kind of person. Let's go in. She pulled Gavin, intending to walk inside. I ignored Gavin's barking and walked straight toward them. Just when Gavin thought I was coming over to cause a scene, I walked right past them without even glancing sideways, as if they were just empty air. The feeling of being completely ignored froze the smile on Gavin's face instantly. He grabbed my arm, his voice dark. Loser, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf? I stopped, slowly turned my head, and let my gaze fall on his hand. Take your dirty hand off me. My eyes were cold, like I was looking at a dead man. Gavin was spooked by my stare, a chill running down his spine, and he instinctively let go. But he quickly realized he had actually been scared by a loser, and his shame turned into rage. Who the hell do you think you are? Daring to talk to me like that? Caleb, have you forgotten your place? You're garbage who lives off women. He pointed at my nose, spitting as he yelled. I'm telling you, Elena is my woman now. You better stay far away from her, or I'll beat you every time I see you. Elena stood to the side, watching indifferently with no intention of stopping him. In her eyes, it was only natural for me to be humiliated. I twitched the corner of my mouth and let out a cold laugh. Your woman? I looked at Elena, a playful look in my eyes. President Sterling, congratulations. You finally found a piece of trash, just as arrogant as you are. What did you say? Gavin exploded, raising his fist to rush at me. Stop. A cool, crisp reprimand rang out. A woman in professional attire with a capable aura walked over quickly, followed by 2 security guards. It was the sales manager. Mr. Hayes, this is the Pinnacle. Please watch your behavior. The manager's tone was polite, but her attitude was firm. Gavin's fist hung in midair, his face alternating between green and white. He glared at me viciously, then said to the manager, Manager Stevens, do you let just anyone in here? Does this kind of person deserve to step through the gates of the Pinnacle? Manager Stevens glanced at me, a hint of disdain flashing in her eyes, though she maintained her professional smile. Sir, can I help you with something? If you're just looking around, please sign in at the side entrance. Her implication was clear, get out. I ignored her and walked straight to the architectural model, pointing at the central penthouse with the best view. This one, I'll take it. The air instantly went quiet. Gavin laughed out loud, as if he'd heard the world's biggest joke. Ha ha, you'll take it? Do you know how much this apartment is? $10 million. Selling every organ in your body wouldn't get you a fraction of that. The professional smile vanished from Manager Stevens' face, replaced by undisguised contempt and impatience. Sir, please don't cause trouble here, or we'll have to ask you to leave. Even Elena looked at me like I was an idiot. She thought the divorce must have mentally broken me. I ignored their mockery and looked calmly at Manager Stevens. What? Afraid I can't afford it. It's not fear, it's that you simply cannot afford it. Manager Stevens' tone was now quite rude. Oh, I pulled a newly issued bank card from my pocket and handed it over. Swipe it. Full payment. Manager Stevens froze. The sales staff behind her froze. Gavin's laughter cut off abruptly, like a duck being choked. Skeptical, Manager Stevens took the card, her eyes full of doubt. She walked to the nearby card terminal, keyed in the operations, and inserted the card. Everyone's eyes were glued to that small machine. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Beep. A soft sound. The receipt for successful payment slowly spooled out. Manager Stevens looked at the long string of zeros on the receipt, turning into a statue. She jerked her head up, her look transforming from disdain to shock, then to horror, and finally to extreme respect and fawning. She handed the bank card back to me with both hands, bowing at a 90-degree angle. Mr. Vance, I apologize. I failed to recognize a VIP. Please, come this way. I will process the premium paperwork for you immediately. Her voice was trembling. You could hear a pin drop in the entire sales lobby. Gavin's mouth was wide enough to fit an egg, his expression uglier than if he'd eaten dirt. 10 million, paid in full. How is that possible? Where did this loser get that much money? The most shocked person was Elena. She stared at me intensely, as if trying to see through my soul. The man who had lived off her family for 3 years, who couldn't even afford decent clothes, just casually dropped 10 million. This completely shattered her perception of reality. I took the card, not even glancing at the fawning Manager Stevens, and let my gaze land on Gavin and Elena. Sorry, but this apartment is mine now. In the future, please don't bark like dogs at my front door. You, where did you get that money? Gavin finally recovered from the shock, pointing at me, his voice shrill. Did you steal from the Sterling family? It was the only explanation he could think of. Elena's face changed instantly, her eyes sharp as knives, locking onto me. If that were the case, she would absolutely destroy me. I laughed, a laugh full of contempt. Steal? Gavin, do you think everyone uses dirty, underhanded tactics like you? President Sterling, I turned to Elena. When we divorced, the agreement clearly stated I was leaving with nothing. Do you think I had the opportunity or the ability to steal $10 million right under your nose? Elena's lips moved, but she couldn't say a word. It was true. She controlled all the Sterling family finances. As a live-in husband, I didn't even have a credit card. How could I steal that much money? But if it wasn't stolen, then this money. A terrifying thought surfaced in her mind. Had he been pretending for 3 years? Was he actually a hidden tycoon? She dismissed the thought as soon as it appeared. Impossible. How could a truly capable man endure 3 years of humiliation? Mr. Vance, shall we go sign the contract? Manager Stevens approached carefully, interrupting the standoff. Let's go. I nodded and followed her toward the VIP lounge. From start to finish, I didn't spare another look at Elena or Gavin. The feeling of being completely ignored and crushed left Gavin's ego in shatters. He watched my back, his eyes venomous, like a viper waiting to strike. And Elena fell into deep self-doubt. She realized she had never truly known the man who had slept in her house, though in a separate room, for 3 years. His calmness, his decisiveness, his mystery. It was like a fog she couldn't see through. After signing the contract and getting the keys, I declined Manager Stevens' kind offer to send a car for me and walked out of the sales office alone. As soon as I stepped out, Dom's car pulled up in front of me. It was a brand new Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Caleb. Dom jumped out of the driver's seat and gave me a bear hug. He was wearing a brand-name suit, his hair slicked back, but the excitement and adoration in his eyes hadn't diminished a bit. Caleb, you're a god. 6 million profit. I've never seen so much money in my life. This is just the beginning. I patted his shoulder. Get in. The car merged smoothly into traffic. Caleb, what's our next move? Dom asked excitedly while driving. Remember that plot of land on the west side I asked you to look into? Lot 03. I remember. I checked it out. Because of zoning issues, it's been sitting empty. Several companies wanted it, but they're afraid of getting stuck with it. We're going to buy it. I leaned back into the soft leather seat, a sharp light flashing in my eyes. In my past life, Gavin had used that land to scam the Sterling family out of a fortune, earning the appreciation of Elena's father, Richard Sterling, in the process. He had received insider information that there were rare minerals under that land, worth a fortune. He pretended to partner with the Sterling family to develop it, then pulled the rug out at the last minute, swallowing the entire project and causing the Sterlings heavy losses. In this life, I was going to make sure his scheme backfired spectacularly. Caleb, that land is a money pit, are we? Dom hesitated. Listen to me. It's the right move. Okay. Dom didn't ask anymore and immediately turned the car around. Just then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I picked up. Caleb, it's Elena. The voice on the other end was still cold, but it seemed to lack a bit of its usual superiority, replaced by something complex. What is it? My tone was flat. Can we meet? No time. I refused bluntly and hung up immediately. Listening to the dial tone, Elena fell into a long silence. Once upon a time, if she called, no matter what I was doing, I would appear in front of her within 10 minutes. Now, he didn't even have the interest to speak an extra sentence. This massive gap made her chest feel tight, a vague irritability rising in her heart. Elena, what's wrong? Who called? Gavin's voice came from beside her. He had just secured the preliminary cooperation agreement for the West Side land and was feeling triumphant. Nothing. Elena put away her phone, her tone indifferent. Still thinking about that loser? Gavin's face darkened. He definitely just got lucky and won the lottery. 10 million sounds like a lot, but what is it to us? Once I secure the West Side project, I'll make 100 million back. You better not screw this up. Elena glanced at him coldly. The West Side project was crucial to Sterling Corp's future strategy. There was no room for error. Don't worry. Gavin thumped his chest in guarantee. The source is absolutely reliable. There's gold under that land. Dom and I drove directly to the auction site for the West Side Lot 03 project. Because the land was controversial, this auction wasn't heavily advertised. The attendees were mostly well-informed second- and third-tier companies looking for a bargain. Sterling Corp and Gavin's company were the strongest players there. When I walked into the hall with Dom, everyone's eyes focused on us. Isn't that Caleb Vance? The Sterling family's useless son-in-law. Why is he here? And he's with Dom. I heard he divorced Elena Sterling and left with nothing. How's he look like he's doing so well? Whispers rose and fell. Gavin and Elena saw us too, and their expressions instantly turned ugly. Caleb, what are you doing here? Gavin rushed over, looking like he wanted to eat me alive. If you could be here, why can't I? I responded calmly. You? What are you going to bid with? Your 10 million lottery money? Don't make me laugh. Gavin sneered. I ignored him and led Dom to sit in the front row. This spot was right next to Elena and Gavin. The auction started quickly. Starting bid, 5 million. 6 million. A balding CEO raised his paddle first. 7 million. The price climbed steadily, soon reaching 15 million. At this price point, most people began to hesitate. After all, the risk on this land was high. Gavin saw the timing was right and smugly raised his paddle. 20 million. He shouted the price, looking at Elena with a victorious air, as if showing off his power. Elena nodded slightly. This price was within their budget. The room went quiet, seemingly waiting for Gavin to take the land. Just then, I slowly raised my paddle. 30 million. The crowd erupted. Everyone looked at me like I was insane. Increasing the bid by 10 million instantly. Gavin's face turned beet red. He whipped his head around, glaring death at me. Caleb, you're doing this on purpose. It's just an auction. Highest bidder wins. I spread my hands, looking innocent. Elena's gaze became incredibly heavy. She stared at me tightly, as if trying to read something on my face. She didn't believe I was just driving up the price. Did he also know the secret of this land? Impossible. The source was extremely secretive. Even she had only barely learned of it through her father's connections. 35 million. Gavin gritted his teeth and raised his paddle again. 50 million. I followed up effortlessly, as if I were bidding $50, not 50 million. Puffed. Gavin choked on his breath, nearly passing out on the spot. Beside him, Elena's face went completely pale. 50 million was far beyond their budget. If they didn't get this project, not only would Gavin fail to answer to her father, but Sterling Corp's entire strategy would be disrupted. Gavin, don't be impulsive. Elena grabbed Gavin, who was about to raise his paddle again. Gavin's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at me. Caleb, what the hell are you trying to do? I said, highest bidder wins. I looked at him, smiled, and then raised my paddle again, bidding against myself. 60 million. In that moment, the whole world went silent. 60 million. The number sat like a mountain on everyone's chest. Gavin was completely deflated. Even if he sold his company, he couldn't scrape together that much cash. He slumped in his chair, his face ashen. Elena's body was trembling slightly. She looked at me, her eyes full of shock, confusion, and a trace of fear that she didn't even realize herself. She couldn't read me at all anymore. This man seemed to have transformed overnight from a docile sheep into a tiger ready to devour people. 60 million, going once. 60 million, going twice. 60 million sold. Bang. The gavel fell. Congratulations to Mr. Caleb Vance for successfully winning the West Side, Lot 03. Scattered applause rang out, but mostly there were looks that said I was an idiot. Everyone thought I was crazy to spend 60 million on a wasteland. Beside me, Dom's palms were sweating, but he didn't say a word, because I had told him, trust me unconditionally. I stood up, walked over to the dazed Gavin, leaned down, and whispered in his ear, I'm not just taking your land. I'm taking your company, your woman, your everything. Oh, right, and your life. Gavin's head snapped up, his pupils contracting violently as he looked at me in terror. My words were like a key, unlocking the deepest fear in his heart. He remembered that accidental car crash. Did he know something? No, impossible. I didn't pay him any more attention and walked straight out of the hall. As soon as I stepped out, Elena chased after me. Caleb, stop. She blocked my path, her chest heaving with rapid breaths. What exactly do you want? Spending 60 million on a wasteland just to get revenge on me. Her voice held a note of interrogation and a grievance she didn't even notice. Revenge on you? I looked at her and laughed. Elena, you think too highly of yourself. From the moment we divorced, you became nothing to me. I stepped around her, preparing to get in the car. Wait, she grabbed my arm again. Tell me, where did your money come from? Did you know something? She was referring to the secret under the land. I shook off her hand, my eyes cold. No comment. With that, I got into the car. The Cullinan let out a low roar and sped away, leaving Elena standing there alone, dazed. In the car, Dom finally couldn't hold it in. Caleb, 60 million. Are we really going to develop that land? Who said we're developing it? I smiled. Then why do we buy it? Dom was completely lost. Just wait. Someone will come begging us to buy this land back. A cunning glint flashed in my eyes. In my past life, Gavin knew there were minerals under the land, but he also knew the mining rights were controlled by someone else. A reclusive business prodigy, the head of the Thorne family. Gavin had expended massive effort to connect with the Thorne family and get the cooperative mining rights. In this life, I didn't need to do any of that, because the head of the Thorne family, Sophia Thorne, was my junior from college, a girl who'd been deeply in love with me, but whom I had cruelly rejected because of my insecurity and obsession with Elena. After I died in my past life, she was the one who investigated my death regardless of the cost, and eventually, to avenge me, used the Thorne family's power to crush Gavin and the Sterlings. In this life, I would never let her down again. I took out my phone, found that familiar yet distant number, and typed a text. Sophia, long time no see. Are you free to grab dinner? After sending the text, I felt a bit nervous. After all, I was the one who hurt her back then. 3 minutes later, the phone vibrated. There was only one word on the screen. Yes, followed by an address for a private dining club. My suspended heart finally relaxed. Dom, go to this place. You got it, Caleb. Half an hour later, the car stopped in front of an antique-style courtyard. Caleb, I'll wait outside. Dom tactfully didn't get out. I nodded and pushed the door open. The courtyard was full of flowers and plants. A girl in a white dress was sitting by a stone table, quietly brewing tea. Her profile was beautiful, her long hair cascading like a waterfall, her temperament gentle as water. Hearing footsteps, she looked up. Our eyes met. Her eyes were bright, like they held a sea of stars. The moment she saw me, that sea rippled. Caleb, you came. Her voice was lovely, like a clear spring in a mountain ravine. This was Sophia. I sat opposite her, 100 emotions mixing in my heart. Long time no see. Yes, 3 years. She poured me a cup of tea. Are you doing well? There was a careful concern in her eyes. I shook my head and laughed self-deprecatingly. Not really. I know everything. Sophia's eyes dimmed slightly. About you and Elena. I was surprised, but then relieved. With the Thorne family's capabilities, checking someone's background was as easy as flipping a hand. I made a fool of myself. No. She shook her head, looking at me seriously. I just think she didn't deserve you. That one sentence touched the softest part of my heart. For 3 years, everyone thought I wasn't good enough for Elena. Only she thought Elena wasn't good enough for me. Thank you, I said sincerely. Caleb, you didn't just find me today to catch up, did you? Sophia was smart. She cut straight to the chase. Yeah, I didn't beat around the bush anymore. I secured the West Side lot. A flash of surprise crossed Sophia's eyes. 60 million. A bold move. I want to partner with you. I looked straight into her eyes. I know the mining rights below that land are in your hands. Sophia was genuinely shocked this time. This information was the Thorne family's top secret. Aside from her and her father, no third person should know. How'd he know? She looked at me. The man before her was familiar, yet strange. He was no longer the sunny but slightly insecure boy from college. His eyes held a depth and world weariness she couldn't read. What do you want? Sophia quickly regained her composure. I don't want the mining rights. I shook my head. I just need you to do me a favor. What favor? I need you to leak news that the Thorne family is preparing to independently develop the minerals under the West Side lot, and that you've mastered a core technology allowing you to mine directly without disturbing the surface owner. Sophia was incredibly sharp. She understood my intent instantly. You want to turn that land into a hot potato? Exactly. I nodded. And I want to make a certain someone willingly pay a huge price to buy this potato from me. Sophia looked at me and suddenly smiled. Her smile was like a spring breeze, brightening the entire courtyard. Caleb, you've changed. Have I? You've become more charming. Her gaze was bold and direct, carrying a hint of provocation. I'll help you, but I have a condition. What condition? She suddenly leaned in, her warm breath brushing my ear. Play a role for me. What role? I could smell the faint scent of jasmine on her, and my heart skipped a beat. Play my boyfriend. Sophia leaned back, a cunning smile on her lips. My family has been pushing me into business marriages lately. It's annoying me to death. Pretend to be my boyfriend and block those pests for me. In return, I won't just leak the news. I'll personally step out and help you hype the value of that land to the sky. This condition was all benefit and no harm to me. Deal. I didn't hesitate. It's a promise. Sophia extended her pale hand. I shook it. Her hand was soft and cool. We spent the meal discussing the details. Chatting with Sophia was comfortable. She always caught my references perfectly and found new topics when I fell silent. It was a feeling I had never experienced with Elena. After the meal, Sophia drove me back to the Pinnacle herself. You live here? She looked at the penthouse tower, surprised. Yeah, just bought it. Looks like you've been doing well these 3 years, she teased. Just some pocket change, nothing worth mentioning. I mimicked the tone of business tycoons, acting cool. Sophia laughed, trembling like a flower branch. All right, I won't keep you. Wait for my good news tomorrow. She winked at me and drove off. The next day, a piece of news detonated in the city's business circle. Thorne family officially announces billion-dollar investment to independently develop classified West Side minerals, mastering revolutionary non-invasive mining technology. As soon as the news came out, everyone went crazy, especially those companies who had eyed the West Side lot. Who were the Thornes? They were a top-tier hidden dynasty in the country, their power far exceeding the Sterlings. If they said there were minerals, there were minerals. If they said they had the tech, they absolutely had it. Instantly, the wasteland in my hands became a golden ticket. But at the same time, it became a hot potato. Because the Thornes announcing independent development meant that whoever owned the surface rights couldn't partner with them. Buying the land meant watching the Thornes make money mining underneath while you could do nothing on top. My phone was blowing up. Everyone wanted to know what I planned to do with the land. But I ignored them all. I was waiting for the real big fish. Meanwhile, Sterling Corp was in chaos. Richard Sterling, Elena's father, a man over 60 but still energetic, was pointing his cane at Gavin's nose, screaming curses. You useless idiot. Didn't you say the intel was reliable? Didn't you say you could handle the thorns? Now look, 6 million profit. Caleb, that loser, picked up a winning lottery ticket. The Sterling family's face has been completely lost by you. Gavin knelt on the floor, trembling, unable to say a word. Elena stood to the side, her face pale. She never imagined the result would be this. Caleb. It was Caleb again. It was like he could predict the future. Every step he took was ahead of everyone else. Dad, now isn't the time to assign blame. We have to figure out how to get the land back from Caleb. Elena analyzed calmly. Get it back? How? He's definitely going to jack the price up to the sky. Richard gasped for air in anger. I'll go talk to him. Elena took a deep breath, making a decision. She didn't believe Caleb truly had no feelings for her anymore. As long as she lowered her pride and showed some goodwill, that man would surely change his mind. After all, she was Elena Sterling, the goddess every man dreamed of. When Elena called, I was with Sophia, attending a high-end business gala. This was something Sophia arranged specifically to help me play the role. I wore an Armani suit Sophia had tailored for me, a Patek Philippe on my wrist. My entire aura had changed, attracting the eyes of everyone in the room. Sophia held my arm, looking impossibly beautiful in a red evening gown. Standing together, we looked like a match made in heaven. Caleb, where are you? Let's meet. Elena's tone held a hint of command she couldn't suppress. She still hadn't grasped the situation. Busy, I responded flatly. What is more important than meeting me? Her voice turned cold. Accompany my girlfriend to a gala. You tell me if that's important. As soon as I spoke, Sophia leaned in cooperatively, speaking in a sickly sweet voice toward the phone. Honey, who is it? Hang up already. I can't wait to dance with you. Dead silence on the other end. I could imagine Elena's expression right now. It must be spectacular. A few seconds later, she asked through gritted teeth. Have a girlfriend? Is that not allowed? I countered. Who is she? That doesn't seem to be any of your business, President Sterling. With that, I hung up again. You're ruthless, Caleb. Sophia smiled until her eyes were crescents. With people like that, you can't be soft. Just as I finished speaking, a commotion came from the entrance. Elena had arrived. She was still dressed in her Ice Queen CEO style, but her face carried a trace of panic and anger. She spotted us in the crowd immediately and walked straight over. The eyes of the entire room focused on us, full of the scent of gossip. The drama of the ex-wife crashes the party was always a favorite topic. Caleb, come here. Elena stood in front of us, pointing at me, her voice trembling with rage. Before I could speak, Sophia stepped in front of me. Miss, do you have business with my boyfriend? Her tone was polite, but the words my boyfriend were articulated with extreme clarity. Elena's gaze landed on Sophia. When she saw Sophia's face clearly, her pupils constricted violently. Miss Thorne, as the CEO of Sterling Corp., how could she not recognize the daughter of the Thorne family? She never dreamed that the girlfriend Caleb mentioned would be Sophia Thorne. How could a discarded son-in-law connect with a Thorne line? It defied logic. President Sterling knows me? Sophia feigned surprise. I've heard a lot about you. Elena forced a smile, but it looked uglier than crying. Miss Thorne, have you been deceived by him? He's just a what? Sophia interrupted her, the smile fading from her face. President Sterling, are you saying my taste is worse than yours? That sentence choked Elena into silence. Sophia took my arm, leaning against me intimately. I love him. I think he is the best man in the world. As for you, President Sterling, throwing away such a good man to choose well, I won't comment. Her words were like knives stabbing into Elena's heart. The surrounding crowd began to whisper. So that's the Sterling family's ex-husband? He looks talented. Way better than that Gavin guy. Yeah, Elena must be blind. She dumped a potential stock for Gavin. Now that he's with the Thorns, she regrets it. Serves her right. These whispers were like needles pricking Elena's ears. Her face went from green to white, her body swaying. Caleb. She ignored Sophia, staring dead at me. Let's talk about the land. On behalf of Sterling Corp., I offer $100 million to buy it back. She thought shouting a sky-high price would salvage some dignity. However, I just smiled, and then, in front of everyone, announced a bombshell. Sorry, President Sterling. You're too late. I've already decided to give this land to my fiancée, Miss Sophia Thorne, as a betrothal gift. The crowd gasped. A $60 million plot of land, gifted just like that. What a gesture. What generosity. Sophia froze too. She hadn't expected me to pull this move. Her pretty face instantly flushed red, looking at me with shock and joy. And Elena stood there as if struck by lightning, completely petrified. Betrothal gift. Fiancé. Those two words were like the sharpest swords, piercing through all her pride and delusions. She had lost, completely and utterly. Not only had she lost the land and the chance to fix things, but she had also been ruthlessly humiliated by me in front of everyone. Caleb, you're so cruel. She pointed at me, lips trembling, her eyes instantly reddening. It was the first time I had seen such a fragile expression on her face. Unfortunately, my heart had long since turned to iron. Cruel. I laughed coldly. Compared to what you people did to me, what is this? Elena, watch closely. Watch how I take back everything of mine, step by step. Watch how you fall, step by step, into the abyss. Finished. I ignored her, took Sophia's hand, and walked onto the dance floor under the envious gazes of the crowd. Music began to play. I held Sophia's waist as she leaned against my chest. Caleb, just now, were you serious? Her voice was as quiet as a mosquito. Of course. I looked down at her, my eyes gentle. Sophia, will you give me another chance? Sophia's eyes instantly misted over. She didn't speak, only buried her head deeper into my chest. I knew she had agreed. In the corner of the ballroom, Elena watched us, soul-crushed, like a child abandoned by the world. She didn't understand why things had turned out this way. Just a few days ago, this man was kneeling at her feet. Why did everything change? After the gala, I took Sophia home. At the Thorn Estate gate, she suddenly stood on her tiptoes and kissed my cheek lightly. Good night, my fiancé. With that blushing, she ran inside. I touched the lingering warmth on my cheek and smiled. Being reborn was good. However, the revenge was just beginning. The next day, I received an unexpected phone call. It was Gavin. His voice was filled with terror and begging. Caleb, brother, I'm begging you, let me off. I'll give you anything you want. Oh, what happened? I feigned ignorance. My company is being investigated. All the dirt was leaked. The IRS and the fraud division are in my office right now. Is that so? That really is. Heartwarming news. It was you. It must have been you. Gavin screamed on the other end. So what if it was? I said coldly. Gavin, I told you. I want your life. Do you remember how you drove the car that knocked me off the cliff? Dead silence on the other end. Only the choking sounds of Gavin's extreme fear. You. Enjoy your final moments. I hung up, my eyes devoid of pity. Any mercy toward scum like him was cruelty to myself. Gavin's downfall was faster than I expected. In my past life, I had compiled all the dirty things he did, forged contracts, illegal fundraising, commercial bribery, into a dossier and submitted it anonymously. The evidence was undeniable. He didn't even have a chance to struggle. 3 days later, the news broadcast Gavin's formal arrest. With multiple crimes, he would spend the rest of his life in prison. And the Sterling family, due to being deeply tied to Gavin, was dragged down with him. Sterling Corp's stock price plummeted, evaporating billions in days. Even more fatal, Richard Sterling was taken away for investigation due to suspected involvement in Gavin's illegal activities. The Sterling family, once a flourishing tree, was tottering overnight. Elena became the sole pillar of the family. She was frantically dealing with the company's mess, handling debt collectors from the banks and partners canceling contracts. The once aloof So now had to bow and scrape to every minor manager, begging for leniency. I knew Sophia was helping me from the shadows. With the Thorn family's power, making a company die silently was too easy. That evening, I was having a candlelight dinner with Sophia at the Pinnacle. The doorbell rang inappropriately. I checked the monitor. It was Elena. She looked much more haggard. No makeup, messy hair, bloodshot eyes. Let her in, I said to Sophia. Are you sure? Sophia was worried. It's fine. Some things need closure. I opened the door. Elena stood there. Seeing me open the door, she froze. Then she saw Sophia behind me at the dining table, wearing loungewear and smiling happily. Her body swayed, her face turning instantly pale. She finally understood why Caleb knew so many trade secrets and how he connected with the Thorns. They had been living together all along. In her instantly pale, she finally understood why Caleb knew so many trade secrets and how he connected with the Thorns. They had been living together all along. In her eyes, all of this was a premeditated conspiracy, a trap set by Caleb and Sophia. You two, good moves. She stared at us, her voice full of venom. President Sterling, be careful what you say. Sophia stood up, walked my side, and held my arm. Caleb and I are truly in love. As for you, You threw away such a good man for a criminal, and now you have the nerve to judge? Truly in love? Ha ha ha. Elena laughed maniacally as if hearing a massive joke, but as she laughed, tears streamed down. Caleb, how did I ever wrong you? Why treat me like this? She screamed at me. I watched her quietly until she stopped. You asked how you wronged me? My voice was calm. 3 years ago, I was in a car accident, lying in the hospital, needing surgery money. I called you, and you said you were in a meeting and hung up. In the end, Dom sold his family's house to save my life. 2 years ago, your brother hit someone while street racing. You made me take the fall, leaving me in detention for 15 days. 1 year ago, to get a project, you got me drunk and sent me to an older client's bed. With every item I listed, Elena's face grew paler. She had almost forgotten these things. To her, they were trivial matters. It was only right for a loser like me to do them. And in the past life, I looked at her, articulating every word. You and Gavin conspired to knock me off a cliff with a truck, destroying my body. Do you think you wronged me? Elena looked struck by lightning, her pupils dilating to the max, staring at me in horror. What are you talking about? What? What past life? Don't understand? I smiled. Doesn't matter. You don't need to understand. You just need to know that everything you are suffering now is the karma you deserve. Get out. I pointed at the door. Disappear from my world completely before I change my mind. Elena was pushed out the door, lost in spirit. She leaned against the cold wall, slowly sliding down until she collapsed on the floor, sobbing in despair. Elena's fate was even more miserable than I imagined. Richard Sterling was sentenced to 15 years, and Sterling Corp declared bankruptcy. She fell from the clouds into the mud, losing everything overnight. The mansion auctioned, cars repossessed, she lived in a dark, damp basement apartment. To survive, she had to let go of all her pride and work bottom-tier jobs. Washing dishes, handing out flyers, cleaning. Hands that used to sign multi-million-dollar contracts were now covered in frostbite and calluses. Once I saw her on the street by chance. She was wearing a cheap uniform, shoving flyers into cars. When she saw the window roll down to reveal my face, she froze. Inside the car, Sophia was leaning intimately on my shoulder. The contrast between our radiance and her wretched state was blinding. Her eyes were full of regret, jealousy, and unwillingness. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. I rolled up the window, and the Cullinan drove smoothly past without pausing. In the rearview mirror, I saw her chase the car for a long distance before finally falling to the ground, wailing, but my heart held no ripples. I didn't even bother to hate her anymore. Indifference was the cruelest punishment. 1 year later, my wedding with Sophia was held on a private island in the Caribbean. Sunshine, beaches, azure sea. Friends and family were there to bless us. Dom, as my best man, cried harder than I did. Under the priest's witness, I put the ring on Sophia. Miss Sophia Thorne, do you take Mr. Caleb Vance to be your husband, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until death do you part. Edo. Sophia smiled brilliantly through her tears. I kissed my bride. Thunderous applause erupted. At the wedding reception, a television in the background was playing a local news report. It is reported that former Sterling Corp CEO, Elena Sterling, unable to bear the burden of life, committed suicide in her rental apartment yesterday. She was found with no vital signs. I turned off the TV. Sophia held my hand, asking softly, "Do you regret it?" I shook my head and pulled her into my arms. No, I only regret not meeting you sooner. Under the setting sun, our shadows stretched long and entwined. My new life, full of sunshine and happiness, was just beginning.